Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to have a little chat and while I'm making matcha about tea, where it comes from, and how it's made. So let me set up my matcha making kit. I have hot water in this teapot, and then I brought everything in this basket that I got in Uji, Japan. Not Uji, I got this in Kyoto. I got a matching one with my friend Alex, and we got all of our matcha stuff. So I have my trussel screw, which is made out of red bamboo, and it's very beautiful. It has a unique tip as well. And then I also got a new matcha little bowl. This is to display my matcha inside. It has my matcha inside, and it will mainly be used for beautifulness in ceremony. But I got one recently. I got a bunch recently for tea, and I decided to put my matcha in this today. And then we have the matcha I'm using, just so you all know. I'm using the natural Okumidori matcha from Obubu, and they are Kyoto Obubu Farm in Wasaka, Japan. This is a nice, it has a nuttier flavor in my opinion, and it's natural meaning organic. It's not certified, but it is. They don't use any pesticides, and they don't use anything other than organic material to enhance the tea. So I'm using that one today. To be honest with you, I'm gonna say a little bit of a thing with tea. So I didn't believe this until I realized this. Water matters with tea. And I didn't really like this tea in Japan when I tried it. And then they sent me some when I was here in Washington State. And I love it now. It's one of my favorite. I grab this more often than my other ones I bought in Japan that were my favorite. Honestly, my favorite from Abubu is Goko recently, but I ran out of that, so now I'm just grabbing this one. But we already have my matcha in here, so I'm going to set this to the side back in here just so it doesn't get moist. And then we have my chosen. Again, I have red bamboo or black bamboo. I only had one before I went to Japan. Matcha wasn't an everyday thing, and I honestly would make it like once or twice a year. It wasn't like constant matcha. Um, and then when I got to Japan, I started drinking matcha every day. So kind of fell in love with it, and I started learning a lot more about the tools that mattered. So I did in fact get a chusen, and it also matches my trussel soup. I still want a new chusen that's a richer, deeper color, but this one is great, and I want to thank my sister for getting this one for me. And then I also have my handy dandy sieve. It is covered in matcha. I don't wash this as often because I don't want it just has matcha on it, so I use it constantly with matcha. And then I'm gonna grab my bowl. This also has matcha in it because of the sieve, but this bowl I got from a local artisan. It was an older lady who hobby after she retired was pottery, and she sells them for like $1 or $2. I got this one, and I've used it every day since. And then of course, I'm gonna put my bag away so you guys can see. And what I have on the table, this is actually it's for the wall usually. And I bought it because of the design in it, and it has a wonderful design that was the first manga supposedly, and it has rabbits, monkeys, frogs, fighting and laughing and fishing, and it's just one of my favorite things I found in Japan. I actually fell in love with this design that I bought so many things with it on it. I'm still looking for a chawan, um, something pottery-esque that has it. But I got this as a tea rag, and I've been using it every time since, and now is getting so much character because it was just ivory, and now it's going, it has spots of tea, there's some green spots from matcha, and it's one of my favorites. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour the water into my bowl and wet my chussin. While I'm doing that, I'm also going to explain why I'm here. I'm teaching you how I do my matcha, and I also am going to teach you a little bit about tea, because I understand that people don't know that much about tea. They're really hyped about matcha recently. Now, disclaimer, I do not drink matcha lattes a lot. I drink primarily just plain matcha. Um, I do crave matcha lattes often, but I don't drink it every day, and I don't really drink it that often, I guess. I'm more of a straight matcha girl. But I have family members that drink matcha lattes every day, which I'm completely fine with. You're drinking tea. And I want to also disclaim I'm outside, even though I have a microphone on. I don't know how good it is. It's my first time doing outside stuff. So let's mix this around. It helps. So what we're doing here with the chussin, it's bamboo, and it's kind of hard. So it's kind of, the spawns are hardened when it's dry. If you use a hard chussin, the sprouts will actually break off, and then you will have bamboo in your tea. So instead of me getting bamboo in my tea, I'm going to wetten it, and then it will make the prawns easier to press, so you can bend the bowl so they aren't going to break when you make your matcha. When I am curling it in there with just water, usually you can just let it set in hot water. This is not really hot because I've been talking a lot, and this is not, it's not keeping it boiling, but it is keeping it nice and warm. So it's not boiling hot water like I usually use, but it is going to work. You just have to do some work with it. And yeah, and I think that's good enough for me. I'm gonna put it back on my matcha, my chussin scan with the water I just used. This is now bamboo tea. I am not going to be drinking this. I'm sure some people might like it, but I'm not going to. So I'm gonna pour it out. Usually you have a waste bucket. I have not gotten one yet. That's my next line of business on my matcha journey. So I'm just going to pour it out beside me, give it to the earth. Next up, we are going to now put my matcha in here. So if I moved a little bit over, I stopped to check to make sure that my camera was rolling. So I didn't just talk to myself for the next 20 minutes. And so now I'm going to be grabbing my truffle scoop and my matcha. This up with 3 grams of matcha, and I'm going to now use it. Oh, I forgot one rule. I have my sieve, and I'm going to put it like this. There's someone coming, so I might have to stop. 1. So each little scoop is actually going to be 1 gram. This is my first time using this. So I wasn't going to speak because there's some people coming, but I just poured all of my matcha, about 3 scoops, and each scoop, like I was saying, is 1 gram. I do 3. Primarily, you only need 2. Depends on what you're making. I always say for matcha lattes, you only need 2. But again, I like stronger tea and I like stronger matcha. So I do 3 or 4, depends on the day, and depends on the matcha, because each matcha has a different flavor when you do more. Now I'm going to be mixing this around in here. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to explain what tea is. So it's from the same plant called Camellia sinensis. And the reason we have different teas and taste different and look different is because of processing. Now I'm going to wipe this off of my tea off real fast to make all that matcha go away. It's tea processing. And the tea processing affects so much flavor and the way you drink it and use it, such as, and different teas have different processing within the same category as the other tea. So what does that mean? The basics: green tea, oolong, and black tea. These are 3 teas you probably heard about before and probably have had. Each one of those are from the same exact plants, and they are all processed different. The primarily difference between all of those is actually oxidization. Now, oxidization is a enzyme that's inside of plants, people. It's inside a lot of natural materials. What it does is when you take a bite, here's an example. When you take a bite of an apple and it turns, and you leave it out in the air, it's going to turn brown. That's same thing with tea. You leave it out in the air, it's going to turn brown. Now, how do we stop this oxidization, since we do harvest the tea from tea bushes and then we bring them to the factory or wherever you're processing, the processing plant for tea? What they do, there's 2 different ways to stop oxidization. The enzyme that does oxidize hates heat and hates cold. So, oxidization is going to freeze when you hold cold air on your tea leaves, and also is going to stop when you put it in heat. There's 2 different ways to stop oxidization for green tea, and it's different regions and different places in the world. First region, let's talk about Japan. Japan primarily used a steam technique. Now they steam their tea, and of course there's different steam techniques from around Japan. There's some people do deep steams, some people do light steams. There's different times you steam, different ways you steam. It's all based on who you are, where you are, and how you're doing it. But there's deep steaming, there's steaming, and then there's also pan frying, primarily used in different countries such as China, India, and these are all usually done by hand. And Japan uses steaming, and it makes that very beautiful green aroma. That's why Japanese green tea and Chinese green tea looks a little bit different and have different flavors. It's all come down to the first steps of the processing. Now let's go. Let's take a break. Let me show you my matcha. This is just the paste before I'm going to mix it. I just wanted to show you how beautiful it was. So after that, after green tea, let's say you want to know why matcha and other green teas taste a bit different and are a bit, they have unique flavors between matcha and like sencha, or matcha and a Chinese tea. Matcha, of course, is different types of processing within the each different lines of tea. So matcha per se is also steamed, and it's different because there's different matchas around the world. China makes matcha, and so does India as well. But Japan's matcha that we all drink recently is steamed and dried. They also sometimes cut it up to help the matcha grinding. So it's a little bit different, but other ones, steamed, dried, rolled, shaped, is some of the steps in other green tea. But matcha has a little bit different steps just because it's a little bit different. I'm going to press this further away so it's easier for me to whisk. I poured a tiny bit of water in here and I made a paste before for those who wanted to know. I poured tiny drips of water to make a paste so the matcha I put in is not going to be clumpy. And now I'm going to mix. So the matcha is made by steaming and drying and cutting and then grinding. And then we have oolong. So oolong could be anywhere between 5% and 90% oxidized. This means they don't stop oxidization right away, such as matcha or green tea. They will allow it to oxidize just a little bit or a lot. So this will be in between green tea and black tea. So some oolongs can be tasting more of the green tea and some oolongs can taste more of black tea. And the difference is the oxidization. It could be 5%, it could be 10%, it could be 90%. First off, you're going to look at the tea leaves. If you have green tea, you probably already know this, especially if you have matcha. You're going to look at it and you're going to see bright green colors, even on tea leaves. So if you have sencha, this is good, or if you have any green, they're going to be green because it's green tea. Then you're going to look at your oolong tea. You may not have oolong tea, but I'm going to say it's a nice golden color usually. And oolong tea is going to be the medium oxidization. And this tea is going to give you some caramel colors, some spotty green and black colors. But black tea is not really black. It's more brown, dark brown. And you're going to look at these teas and see different in the leaves and colored components of the brew. Now let's get to black tea. Okay. Black tea is 100% oxidized. When you are done doing whatever you're doing with your black tea, I made black tea, so I rolled it, I processed it, and then I didn't stop oxidization until I dried it. And this is usually common in black tea. You don't stop oxidization ever in the process until you're drying it. So we have different percentage of tea for different teas. And now I'm done with my matcha. This small little bubbles. I'm still not a pro at the little bubbles, but I will be drinking this. So this matcha is very grassy. You can taste the earth, I would say. And you're probably thinking, what? It tastes like fresh tea leaves. I know a lot of people haven't tasted fresh tea leaves before, but matcha has this okinidori matcha, to be exact. Okinidori tea leaves are the best tea leaves you can try. And it is sweet and they're mild. That's why I love okinidori matcha, because it is mild, it is sweet, it is grassy. It has a different profile than some other matchas that are famous. So I love okinidori matcha. So now that I'm done with this, if you're making a matcha latte, pour whatever you just made into a cup with ice and milk. Or you can pour a little bit more water in and pour some more matcha in and make a paste and then pour it over as well. But this is how I make my matcha. Now let's talk about matcha. Where did it came from and how did we start drinking it? So matcha came from China. So when they found tea a long time ago, the emperor started making medicine out of it. It was a medicine food. So what they would do would they would boil the raw leaves with onions and oranges, and they would make kind of like a tea of sort, but it's more medicine than tea. And then they slowly started processing tea a little bit more and more to preserve it so it's easier to have all year round. So they would make cakes. So they just get the raw tea leaves and make cakes out of them. We still have tea cakes till this day, but they're a little bit different. Um, Tea cakes were raw, and then they would just make tea out of them. I'm sure there was mold. I'm sure there was a lot of things wrong with this. But since they dried in that tea cake, they started making powder. So what they would do would they would make powder, and then they are about boiling a kettle. There will be different types of boiling. You should look into it if you're interested. And they would throw it in at a specific type of boiling, usually boiling medium bubbles. Um, and then that powder will become boiled for a very long time and become tea. They used to do that with leaves as well from the same tea cakes. Depends on where you are and who's making it. They would also throw in the onions and oranges still. And then later in the year, they started drinking just the powder like this for Zen properties because L-theanine is a calming agent and it's found in tea, especially in matcha. And they would be drinking this for Zen. The Buddhist monks would be drinking tea for Zen. And then a monk went to Japan and they served tea for the first time to the Japanese monks. And then the monks went back and brought back another monk from Japan. And that monk in Japan brought seeds back to Japan. And it went to Uji and Kyoto province area, where Wasaka is as well. And they planted the tea leaves. And now it's kind of history. They started drinking matcha a lot more. They did it a little bit different. It went from there. And then over the years, a lot of people didn't like matcha. It's primarily for ceremonies and traditions and honoring things in Japanese culture. And then with coming to the 20s of 2020s, 2010s, the Westerners started finding it kind of started being fascinated with Japanese culture. And then what came of that is people finding matcha, and then tea people finding matcha, and then restaurants and people are finding matcha, and then they start serving it, they start promoting it for a health food. And America and all the Western countries are all big on superfoods and health foods. So they started promoting it as a health food, and people started drinking it in their smoothies, and people started drinking it instead of coffee. And this, honestly, they weren't making it properly. They weren't. It was just a powder that they would throw in, mix up like a protein shake, and go. People started drinking it more and more until the matcha latte became so popular, and now it's cool to drink matcha. Now, matcha is amazing for your health, and I drink it a lot. I prefer straight matcha instead of the lovely matcha people drink. I also love flavored matcha, but green matcha just has my heart. I love drinking matcha outside too. Just calm you down and find matcha. The sun's coming out now, which is so nice. But yeah, so that's how matcha was now a superfood that everyone loves. I also would like to say in tea ceremonies. So the Japanese tea ceremony came from a tea ceremony in China that did similar stuff, and then they took it and made it their own for a religious thing. But now it's not religious, and it's more honoring tea and like that tradition. When you get given a tea bowl, oh, chawan, in tradition, you're supposed to drink in 2 sips, but I don't do that. He's not allowed back here. You're not allowed back here. You're gonna knock everything off. You can't. Yeah, go inside. Anyways, my dog just came and said hi. He slimed me. Anyways, I'm gonna clean my bowl now. Same way you started this off, you're gonna end it off. We're gonna rinse this out with the water and pour it to the earth. And then we're gonna pour more water in and do this. But yeah, so the tea ceremony, I've been to a few, and I will say that I loved every single time. I love watching how different people perform, because there's different ways of performing via schools and people taught and stuff like that. I definitely want to be taught someday how to do it a little bit, not like fully, because it will take me a very long time to learn that, but I would love to be taught how to basically just do it so I can show you guys. So I'm just cleaning it off and matcha water, pour it to the earth, and now it's clean. So yes, that's how matcha came to be. It's honestly just a chit chat video of me making matcha, but after this is clean, I put it back on here so it holds its shape and it stays dry. I got this from Amazon on a matcha kit. I still have that matcha kit, but I use none of them other than that. I have my bowl, and then I will slowly put it together. I'm going to dry it out with this. Again, I use this rag. I suggest getting a tea rag if you are a tea person, and I use this for everything. I put it under every time I make tea anywhere, and it catches the tea, and I love how it's turning out. It's like I'm dyeing it with tea, and it has character, and it's just so amazing. Same with this. I'm going to put this back in my thing. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys learned a few things in this video. I have other videos in other blog posts. I have a blog post talking about this teapot. It's the same my grandma had, my great grandma. And then I have videos talking about matcha shortage. I also have videos, just chit chat videos. I'll link them all down below. So please enjoy tea. Please enjoy tea and enjoy your time. If you have any more questions about matcha and the history of matcha, please let me know and comment down below. And have a great day.